Pretty much my entire career, I worked in digitization of construction. My focus was more on production management. Thesis was kind of how to improve sort of logistics for production management. I went to England to do my master's in IT in construction. Salford, actual production management wasn't really touched. Around 2007, got in touch with Lowry. Professor Lowry Koskes, founder of the Lean Construction movement, organized the very first Lean Construction conference. And when I joined Lowry in 2007, started to kind of go deeper into Lean and how to improve the production planning process. Our own prototype called Visilean, and that's when the whole sort of fun started. So we wrote a paper on integrating BIM with Lean. First pilots were with people like Balfour Beatty and Highways England, and very sort of successful. There was a grant available from the Finnish government to actually commercialize research, and I applied for that, got just over $500,000 to commercialize Visilean. It's been developed substantially, fully a cloud-based product, integrating kind of full production planning and control. With now we have customers in over
12 countries at the moment.
Okay. About the data center, since you mentioned that, so we have a data center project going on with Mace. In fact, we are on our second data center, technically a third one. We have been able to kind of, in certain processes, we have been able to reduce production time by over 43%. This is what they documented. Quite many other benefits in terms of handovers, and already on top of some other full planning tools.
These are the 4 verticals that we work with, like a digital version of the last planner system. So your sticky notes become digital tickets, and you get to drag and drop and assign them to various people to actually do a proper full planning session. The whole system is run with visual management, so you can see that the colors speak to you instantly. So green obviously denotes it's complete, and so your subcontractors and people on site get to give you reports, daily updates live from the mobile application directly. Made from the app will be reflected on the BIM model live, and that changes the way you're actually reviewing your progress on site. It becomes a very powerful tool to actually see what's going on. And all of this data coming through, of course, becomes a performance report. So you have a dashboard which starts to populate on its own, and it starts to speak to you and tell you what are the pain points and where are the issues that are actually there on your system. 4 simple parts to the system, and they combine together to give you, a complete construction management solution. This is just an example of what Mace is doing. So Mace has set up Visilean in the data center project, like I mentioned earlier. This is our 4D visualization that you're looking at here, and that's basically the setup. What they call it is the goal command room, and they have a setup here where they sit with all their subbies and have their collaborative planning sessions and review all their work on Visilean directly. What you're looking at here is the 4D visualization, a very simple way of actually looking at the tickets assigned to the workers. Benefits, well, we've got benefits for both the site team as well as the management, which is what makes it one platform, one solution. You've got real-time data, and you've got basically information at hand at all times, and this makes all the difference. And the fact that it's very powerful in terms of visualization. So it makes it easy for people to, you mentioned cultural change is something that you're driving through right now. So it makes it very easy for people to buy in, because we make it simplified enough for people to actually participate very easily. All right, got something very interesting, which is that we're trying to sort of merge everything from P6 to Excel into one place. So you can actually have multiple plans from different platforms into one single platform, where you can actually assign those for people to work on. And we follow a make-ready process. So your teams on site actually make the tasks ready before starting them to ensure that material equipment has been taken care of. You're taking live commitments, and you can see against the person how many commitments are there, how much is the workload, and what is the work going on like. And handovers are pretty smooth because you get a notification from one person to the other when the work is about to start, and that's directly on the mobile app. Again, so there's not one way to do progress visualization. It's not, we want to skip the whole idea of generating reports constantly. So there are multiple ways where you can visualize your progress. I mean, you click a button and you get to see what's the actual compared to the plan. The colors itself speak to you everywhere, so then you know what the color is talking to you. You've got the dashboard, which is giving you, how many delayed tasks you've got, how many stop tasks. And again, the same colors are on the BIM model. So again, there's another way to visualize the progress. And this is just done through all these multiple options on one platform. You can have one platform to capture all these different programs, because we understand that most of the times pieces can be a contractual obligation, while the actual sort of production plans are being done on Excel. So we allow you to do that in one place. We allow you to take that data back, so that you can take those progress updates and then input those back into your systems, and again update your program. So there's a workflow that So that's basically one of the pictures that they've sent from the project itself. That's the setup, and that's how they visualize sort of, on various platforms what's happening with the project. You've got the master plan here. So that's basically what the Gantt view looks like on Visilean. And you've got the 3D model there. And they correlate both of them, and they visualize the progress and actually make planning decisions during the full planning sessions. So we've got their plans, we import their plans, we've updated them for them, and we've got their models, and any updates on the models are also taken care of. And so this is the setup, and they've actually done element linking. They've got make ready details, and they've got that all linked to the schedule. So what you're looking at here is the split view, very simple split view, which is your Gantt at the bottom and the model at the top. So they had, sorry. We recently got nominated for the Offsite Awards, the Offsite Construction Awards, just for this specific case study with Mace. They had, basically they were doing a lot of offsite sort of modular construction, that they were bringing in these modules to be installed directly to site. When they published this case study at the IGLC conference, so they've stated 60% reduction in defects, 43% improvement in program efficiency is what we've highlighted, which is basically credited to Visilean's input into this project. They've gone basically from doing, they've really sort of improved from CLN 1 to CLN 3. And of course, there's been a learning curve, like sort of we've always realized. But right now with 5 and 6, they're pretty sort of mature in terms of their processes and even how to utilize the software.
The data centers themselves, they're roughly the same size. So where you'd get on, where you've had it on other previous projects where people say that no two jobs are the same, no two projects are built the same, that there was a learning curve obviously to improve, but they had been using third-party software with several different processes, sticky notes, and they were using Synchro, then they were using something else, and then they, on the second one, which is that CLN2, they did exactly the same thing, but they included lean processes manually on sticky notes. And on the third one, they did it with Visilean, and obviously it took them only 9 weeks to build. So,
yeah. All right. So this is the dashboard. That's the first sort of view that you enter when you enter your project. But I'm going to jump over to the Gantt. We'll come back to the dash in a bit. But the idea is that whenever you've imported your plan, so of course there are two options. You can import your programs from any of the planning softwares like I mentioned earlier, or you can create tasks, an entire schedule over here from scratch, and it's very simplified. So whenever you do that, whenever you have your plans imported, this is the sort of Gantt chart that prepares itself. And this is exactly, it replicates exactly what you've created in any of your planning software. So be it P6, be it MSP, or even sort of an Excel sheet, we get that data here. And it's completely customizable. So the way you view it is also customizable. So you can choose the columns that you want to see. You can even see the owner who it's assigned to, and it becomes very easy to visualize what's happening where. There's the links, of course, over here, which have come or can be created on the system. So when you drag and drop or move tasks around, the linked tasks move with each other. And it's easy to change the hierarchy, so you can move sort of tasks around and shift them to another parent. First, when I split, so I've got the option, I'll just show you right here. So I've just created a task before we started. So I've collapsed all the programs and I've got a fresh new task here, which I've just created. The option of creating a task is very simple. You can just create a task for yourself. So you can see this is a 51-day task and it's pretty long. So I'm going to split this up into multiples now. So there's an option called split task here. I'm going to go ahead and create, so it's 51 days. Let's say I'm going to create almost 8 subtasks, or probably let's say here, 6. I'm going to make them, I can make them either parallel or sequential. And with sequential, I can even link them, finish to start right here. And what the system does, it automatically numbers them by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can change the name here. You can assign them locations here. John, if you can see, I created that milestone and I linked it using these over here. And if I go into the milestone task, I can see that the prerequisite, the plan constraint is this task 6. So if I reschedule this task over here, if I go ahead and reschedule this task by 5 days, it's moved along with that milestone there, and it's also affected the parent at the top. If you note, every time I've taken an action, which is since the time I created the task to every time I've rescheduled it, you've not lost that data. It's getting logged every single time with a timestamp that certain actions have been taken.
Single element of it, if it moves any time, any date, any updates to any activity, it's not ideal. It wasn't meant for it, but it's really good for claims and disputes as well because it tracks every bit of audit process.
Ability to create baselines. You can compare the baselines against the plans versus the actual. So there is a three-way connection or three-way comparison. You can also visualize the critical path here, but you can visualize the critical path on the screen. And if critical path changes because of the actions you've taken in the pool planning meeting, it will also show you the effects there. And the whole power of this system comes into the fact that your top line is connected to your bottom up, your pool plans. So all the pool plans are connected to the milestones all the way up. And as that sort of progresses, it records everything against your sort of top schedules, and gives you that, like you said, the clients want to know what's happening. They will be able to know what's happening as long as you follow that discipline. So, Paramjit, maybe you want to
yeah. So yes. So of course, I don't think we need to go into too many details with the Gantt. So the idea is that you can have multiple programs here, but something that's really interesting is that, say for example, this is probably the MEP's, the entire sort of package for the MEP. They can do an inline import directly under this parent, create their own tasks or import an entire program. It could be their own Microsoft project or it could be their own Excel. So that goes and sits right under that task, right? So what's happening is you could have a level 2 sort of master schedule or even just milestone with packages, and you can let the people, the teams, the responsible package managers of each domain, each discipline, actually take commitments from their own subbies or create a program on their own and import that at these various levels. So it helps you, it's not really a static program anymore, it becomes very dynamic in that sense. And it's very customizable.
Yeah, and also just to elaborate on that, John, what you can do is when you see that import plan on the sub package. So as we're finding that there's a lot of different contractors. So you'll have a main contractor that's using P6, but you might have a subcontractor that's a small company using Excel. You'll have another company using Asta. We can actually import all of them broken down. And the other power of this as well is we can actually create custom fields. So you can have as many different fields as you want attached, and manage these custom fields here with radio buttons, drop-down menus, text fields, numerical numbers and currencies and stuff like that. So it just allows you to build in whatever you want.
All right, so that's basically your top-down, your programs that you imported or created. So in the scheduler is where we actually have the bottom-up approach. So the moment I've come into the scheduler, you can see that your teams are listed down here. So you've got your various teams or organizations, and this could be your contractors, subcontractors, and you can start to visualize what are the tasks that they're doing against their names. So when you're talking about the execution week, that's the current week. That's the one that's going on site right now. You've got weekly, which is the week coming up. And of course, you've got your look ahead and phase plans. You can customize the look ahead according to your requirements, and the same goes for the phase plan as well. What the system is doing here is that it's actually fetching all the tasks that belong in that specific time duration for you to filter out and assign to the various teams that are there. So for example, all these tasks that you're seeing at the bottom are due to be done in these weeks that are coming up, and these can be dragged and dropped to people for assigning. So for example, if I go here, I've got this demo task and I can assign it to Grunge. I've got fourth floor staircase, I can assign it to Sebastian. And the moment I do that, you have a color wheel here, which basically tells you all the status of tasks on our program. So you've got the moment these tasks move from not committed, which is yellow, the moment they're assigned to somebody, they turn to not ready status. And when these tasks are assigned to people, they have to take ownership for those tasks and basically make the tasks ready. So that's a brief idea of how the workflow happens on the system. So right now you can see that all these tasks are yet to be made ready. So for example, if I just take a look at this task or any of these tasks, if I go to the execution week right now, I can see already that the task sitting with Vikas is red. That means it's stopped. And if I go to the color wheel here, you can see that stopped. And purple means that it's in progress. And you can see that it's already telling me there's an exclamation mark. So it's telling me whether it's delayed. So you already know that the end date was, 12th October, or in this case, it's 14th October here. So it's already telling you that these are running in delay and there are still some unassigned tasks. So you're sitting with your team, you've got all your teams here, and you could be doing it by package, so you can collapse some of them, and you can take commitments for the work, drag and drop, and these people then become responsible for making the tasks ready. The moment
as soon as that's been assigned to the worker, that is instantly sent to the field app, so they get notified immediately of that activity. So hence why it goes to a pink color as soon as it's sent, and for them to make ready the process, rather than them just accept getting a job to start on Monday, they will have the lean make ready process to be able to update that activity before they even turn up on site. So that's how, on that case study that we did with Mace, they were able to get they got everything starting on time because of the make ready process that the field app was sending to them.
So if you just look at the screen right now, and I'm operating from my app, and I've got the 4th floor lift to assign to myself, I'm just going to make this ready, and I've just forced it ready here. So you'll see I've just done a change, and you can see it's turned this green here, and I've just done that from my app, and that's coming. Those updates are coming to you seamlessly. Now I'm going to start this task, so you will see what's going to happen. Just give me a second. So I've just clicked on start, and I'm going to send. So I've just done that from my mobile app, and you can see it's moved to today's date, right? That's today's marker, and you can see the status has changed. So it's very easy to visualize what's happening. You can see that it's turned purple, that means it started. There's also, so this is basically collaborative planning with your teams based on commitments that your teams will be giving, but there's also location-based planning. So if you switch the window here to locations, you'll have a location breakdown structure created or imported from your programs. And the same way, you can actually assign activities to locations as well. So you can drag and drop activities, and then those get defined to certain locations. So you will know if there is a location-based clash as well. And you can also see here who's the person responsible for doing that specific activity. So you have both the ways of actually collaborating with your teams, by users and by locations, and both are completely customizable. So if I go ahead and stop the task here, you will see that the task will turn red instantly over here. And I'm giving updates from my phone directly, and I'm sharing my screen from India, and you're getting those updates right now through screen sharing. So that's the power of the system in terms of how easy it becomes to visualize what's happening, and for people to give you updates also.
And Paramjit, can you also show how you can create a pull plan simply by double clicking on and creating the sticky notes here?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm sitting with you, John, and we're having a discussion. And I said that before my 4th floor lift, actually, there's a drawing that's required, and somebody's responsible for getting that for me. So I'm going to just say drawings for the task, right, as an example. So I've just created that, and I can actually put that under a parent as well. Parent being the main task, so that it doesn't just float around in my Gantt. But I can create that task directly over here, and it gets created against my name, right? So it becomes very easy. So it's like pulling out stickies and then just putting them up then and there, but these are never lost, and everything is recorded in terms of history, so it becomes really powerful that way. And I think just the make or break is that the moment you come to the execution week, right, you can just very easily visualize what's happening on your site. So all you need to do is just come to the execution week and start to see the colors, and you know what's going on in your project, who's basically doing what. And I mean, a click of a button also tells you how many tasks that people are sitting with, which are pending with them beyond what you're looking at in this view, right? So this is not to, just sort of tell people that, hey, why is this, why aren't you working and stuff like that. It's actually to sit with your teams and go like, you can see the flow of the work. So if Vikas is dependent on Yogi, you know how the flow is happening. And this flow happens all the way to your look ahead. So you could have major commitments here, and the entire flow of activities, and your teams are communicating with each other. So team A could be MEP, Visilean service team could be concrete or sort of RCC, and they're all talking to each other. And this can be done now, especially during COVID times, it can be done online, and it's all live. That's where the true power of the system belongs. And just to show you one more sort of very important thing, Let me just take one of the tasks to myself, and I'll just show you. So I'm going to take demo task 1, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the Gantt. That's the one, and you see the moment I did that in the scheduler, so you're not dealing with multiple programs here, it's one program. So you see, I did that in scheduler, it's already with me here. And if I open the history, you'll be able to see that it's assigned to me by me. So if I just make this ready and show you what's going to happen. So it's green, it's going to turn green, which is basically, you can see right here, it's done that. But the interesting part I wanted to show you here is, let me just go back to taking the task. So I'm starting it, and I've given a reason for why I'm starting it late. So that's turned purple right now, and the best part is that every time somebody's starting a task late, they have to tell you a reason, or they have to document. You have to select one of the reasons why you're starting late, and this is basically adding up to your dashboard. That's how your dashboard gets populated. Now, I'm just going to do a thing. I'm going to take a quick picture, and I'm just going to send it over as a file. So your teams could be working on site, and there's some issue that's happened. So if I go to history once again, you can see that there's a file that's been added by me. And if I go to files, I can see that I've just posted an image that I've clicked from my phone right now. I know with WhatsApp and other applications right now, this doesn't seem mind-blowing, but the thing is, this is happening right now from the same application. And so that's just something that I click right now while sharing my screen. But the idea is that this is not going into some Google Drive folder online where you have to, or a BIM 360 document management where you're going into folder and subfolders. This is all logged against that one task. So if you ever want to know what did Paramjeet do with this task, right? And what is the issue? Why did he actually delay 10 days on this task? Then you just go to history, you've got the files, and guess, I mean, I can even send notes to myself. Hey, I had an issue. So I'm just sending a note from my app, and you see I've got the issue right. I've got the message right here. And you're seeing this is my time right now.
Yeah, and the other thing, John, just to take note is if you're a planner or you're looking down at this or a collaborative planning session as the project manager, and you can see that there's an activity there that's not started or not been committed, you might not actually know that individual person, but you can see it's not been started on the right, and you can go over to the notes section yourself here, and you can actually type a note in from the PC cloud anywhere you like and say, please give me an update. They will instantly be notified on their field app that you need to give them an update whilst they're on site. So instead of waiting to get to the collaborative planning session, wait to hear at the end of the week, you can actually get updates immediately by prompting people.
If you have your if you have your activities linked, you've got your P6 program properly sort of imported here, and you actually have the critical path switched on here, it will highlight the activities that are part of your critical path instantly for you. Right now, I don't have that actually imported in one of my tasks here, but that's how it does it. There are ways to basically analyze what's happening with in terms of your delayed task or your stop task in the dashboard. So you have a dedicated portion for your delayed tasks where you can drill down with your teams and actually know what's going on with whom and how many days they're delayed by. So right now the system, so one of the key aspects of a system is that you don't auto schedule anything. The system doesn't auto schedule anything for you. So it will move things around, of course, when they're linked. It will highlight to you where you're lagging behind or what's causing an issue, but it will not auto schedule everything for you because the system is purely designed to cater to, at the moment presently at least, to take responsibility for people actually doing their work and taking ownership for why they're delaying or actually readjusting, rescheduling themselves. That's why when somebody is delayed and they reschedule, they actually have to give a reason for why they're rescheduling. So that's basically how you can sit with your team and know who's what's the delay about. You can filter by the person, the owner, and quickly review their delay task. And you can also see the latest note that they might have added. So this enables very powerful discussions to happen with your teams when you're actually doing a delay review, and it becomes very easy that way to have basically reviews of your project. We are heavily focused on making sure that our interoperability works really well. So of course, we're never trying to duplicate something that what a P6 program does. So that's why we make sure that we import and export data out in such a way that you can at least work on your auto scheduling, your critical path. And well, we are planning to introduce some of those aspects step by step, even in our Gantt. But we are not trying to compete with the P6 program. We expect you, if you're a heavy P6 user, we still expect you to take those updates back and do your auto scheduling on your P6 MSP, no problems. But get those updates back on the system, because you can assign those for actual real-time updates on our system. So we like to plug into your workflow. That's why we let you sort of integrate all these programs together on one. I'm not gonna tell you today that you can, you just need to get rid of P6 tomorrow if you onboard Visilean. No, we don't want to do that. But we understand contractual requirements, certain things that P6 would do. But our system lets you becomes that one platform. It plugs in, and that's why we're dealing with the smallest of projects, some of the very small projects in India and other places, even in Norway, to some of the biggest in UAE and say the Dublin project with Mace. But the unique part is that they all have different workflows. And the way we plug in is where our team comes.
What we're able to do is all of this information that you're capturing, whether it's in a commitment stage, a design stage, construction phase, we've imported your P6 plan. And we do like weekly updates with certain customers. Some customers do it every 3 months. But what we can do is export the revisions out and import them into P6. So you're not having to do any double entry, and this is a one-stop shop. Once the P6 is in, this is about what's happening on site, the daily operations, and all the updates and information that we're capturing, we can export back and replace and revise over P6. So there's no double entry in. The difference we have over...
Yeah, I think we can even put you in touch with Kevin, who's the guy running the show with Mace right now. And I have a daily check-in, or sorry, not daily, but weekly check-in with him. And yesterday I was just sort of talking to him, and he was kind of, the thing he said is that everybody now, I mean, he sees the success of this. Now he has 900 workers on the site, and he said every single subcontractor is using the system. And so much so, John, that just last week, James actually presented to the board of a subcontractor called Ardmac, who's on that Mace job. And because they're using the tool and they loved it so much, we're now actually pushing it into that subcontractor. So it really takes away a lot of pain for the subbies as well, because otherwise they'll be doing a lot of manual updates and bringing them in. Instead, they can now import their stuff and just, kind of go with it. You're gonna get resistance. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there is no magic bullet, right? You're gonna have subbies who's gonna make your life difficult in the beginning. We work with them. We've had a couple of those issues as well, where they throw their toys out of the pram all the time. We have to work with them, and I mean, Paramjit can give you a lot of a lot of those stories as well. But eventually, everything's kind of stabilized. And I guess in particularly kind of with both Mace and Alec, you can see, because both of those are subcontractor heavy jobs, it's worked quite well. And
sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, go on.
I just wanted to add, John, is Alec out in Dubai, we went out there on a €2 billion project, and they did a 3-month pilot of Visilean. And as you can imagine, there's lots of Indian workers out there as well. So they don't have phones, some of them, and they obviously don't understand the English well. So what they did is we went out there for a 5-day workshop. We set up the project, we imported the plans, we took on board their collaborative planning sessions, and we did it in a 5-day workshop. What we did is we did it in small steps. We didn't jump into this and said every subcontractor or employee's got to use this. What we did is we gave the supervisors access to the field app, and they had responsibility for certain subcontractors and workers. And what they were doing whilst out in the desert is the supervisors was making updates on behalf of certain teams, just going through the device and saying this has been done, taking photos and sending it back. And the feedback was coming back that if I can get 80% of updates coming back live from site, it'll be on a daily basis, it'll be 80% more than I get today. They actually signed an enterprise agreement with us, and now they're actually rolling it out onto more and more workers and bringing the people on that are more efficient to using it, and just doing a slowly process. But we're, like I say, we're on 5 projects now with them, and we don't expect it to be a big bang approach to chuck everyone in at the deep end. It's, we slowly walk it through the process.
Doesn't happen overnight. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, John, I just have two very small points, but when you talk about sort of the cultural change or buy-in from subbies, just last night we had a call with BN Builders when we were training some of their subbies, and their lead sort of, project manager said that your app is stupid simple, is what he called it. And that's what really made him feel better about this, because he told us honestly, when you sent out the invite and I was coming in for this meeting, I was dreading learning about a new tool. But looking at this Excel and looking at your app, and this Excel-like version, and I can see that you're giving me live updates and I can visualize how that will happen. He said that I actually feel a lot better now, that it's just so simple, and our app's learning time is literally 20 minutes. It's 2 buttons and you get updates. So that was one of the interesting aspects. And the other one about P6 that you mentioned, and of course, John, you've got a whole lot of experience more than me, and so does Dr. Bhargav and James. But in our little experience of the projects that we're working with, we've come across that even people with P6, they'll get their 3,000 or 8,000 activities in, and then they'll be like, hey, okay, let's get our look-ahead plan in, right? Let's not look at the entire program right away. And guess what? That look-ahead plan always comes in that Excel sheet. Always, without fail. It's always the Excel that they send out, right? And we're like, hey, so how are you managing? And they're like, yes, we do our updates weekly on P6. And the planner's always like, hey, don't change that. I need to do the updates. And so, the planner's always struggling with his weekly P6 updates. And the actual work's happening on Excel. And this is, well, majority, to my understanding, as I mentioned. So, it's not just that people are managing with P6, and I'm sure with the cloud it probably gets better, but there's always this P6 plus Excel combination, which is where we are trying to plug in.
The other thing John mentioned was safety, and we have this workforce planning now into the system, and that was designed just for this data center project, because the client, and who's the client we mentioned yesterday, they were not ready to commission work back after COVID, because they wanted to see how many workers are actually going to be working in one space, and they should be able to maintain this sort of minimum distance with each other. But that in itself has become a huge feature, because you can now visualize how many workers are there in a location and how many workers were planned versus how many are actually working. And this is the part, you mentioned some sensor automation and stuff. This is where we are also bringing our own automation using Bluetooth beacons and stuff. So we are working on this where we will be able to track workers automatically after installing beacons on the site. And we want to then extend that through other things like material and equipment.